You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. While you're planning beach trips, barbecues, and 3-day weekends, your wireless bill should be the last thing holding you back. That's why so many people are making the switch to Mint Mobile.
Say hasta la vista to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you.
All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts.
Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium service from Mint Mobile for $15. Amy, didn't you say that your sister is on Mint Mobile and loves it?
Yes, it was the best option for her when she finally got her own mobile wireless plan.
Honestly, I think that it might be the best option for anyone who needs their own mobile wireless plan. It sounds amazing.
This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/booktalk. That's mintmobile.com/BOOKTALK.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan required. Equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Tax and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This spring, we are hosting a book club while we prepare our 10-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnight.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
And each week we'll discuss one book from our spring book club roster. By using our literary background, we'll provide our flash analysis of each book as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This week, we're discussing The Vampire's Bargain by Jasmine Walt.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel. The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised. If you're enjoying the podcast, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. You can find us at patreon.com/booktalkforbooktalk.
Just thinking maybe we should move that because it's like death, violence, and depression will recur. But like if you want to like support us, go to the Patreon.
Yeah, I guess we could think about that.
All right. This is a special episode because we are not wearing makeup, although we weren't supposed to. But then Amy decided to put on tinted lip gloss.
I did.
Extra tint on the gloss.
Very tinted lip gloss.
Which is basically lipstick.
Hey, but you know what? You don't look shiny the way I look shiny. So
it's because I matted myself.
I did not.
Yeah. So, give or take. It's we're breaking. I mean, I'm breaking out. And I don't know. I went to Beyonce last night and I am. Oh, and you're on your period. So.
Mm-hmm. I've got a giant one. I just have a pimple patch on it.
Oh my God. Yeah. So welcome to girlhood. That's this episode.
Yay!
Last book of spring book club.
It went by so fast.
It did go by really fast. And yet I feel like this was the most disorganized we've been.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't help that I traveled.
Well, we were also covering, like, we did Onyx Storm earlier, and then we pushed up Quicksilver. We didn't go in order. We are creatures of habit. It was too much. And then for this one, today we're discussing The Vampire's Bargain, and we both read this.
Physically
book.
read.
Physically
Actually,
read.
I started the physical book and then was like, I can't do this. So I switched to Kindle.
Physical enough. You were holding something.
I'm just really, really upset with myself that I read faster on a screen than I do a physical book. Something about a physical book right now, I just can't stay focused. I don't know why.
Because we are products of this world and it is a digital age, and
yeah,
which is unfortunate because we have a couple books we need to read for authors that we're interviewing.
It's true, and we have physical copies.
I have a book to bring to you.
Which one? Is it the Sparrow one?
No, it's the Alchemy. It's the one by Stacy.
Stacy. Okay.
Yeah, who we're interviewing. Surprise!
Yes. No, you mentioned it. Do we have a date?
Yeah, you sent out the invite.
I sent the invite for Devney.
We're gonna look at that. We do have a date, but now I need to figure out if I need to send the invite.
Okay, well then no, we have not sent that invite.
Shit. All right, well we'll do that. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about The Vampire's Bargain. So, hands up, tits up. I'm ready. I'll go.
Okay, good.
Because I actually rehearsed this one. It had, oh shit, I thought I rehearsed it. It had all the right ingredients. So what went wrong?
Okay. The characters felt more established in part 2. I wish I had more words.
Damn right. No, I think that's fine. We said 10 words or less, so you did the or less.
Well, what I wanted to add to that was I felt like she could have started at part 2. We didn't need part 1.
No truer words. Part 1 could have been done in a handful of chapters.
Or hindsight.
All right. Well, before we get into
that
gritty, I know, like, I don't want to like go in and start like picking it apart, but let's talk about themes.
Yes. Hidden identity, or like known hidden identity and not known hidden identity.
Yeah, that is a theme. I would also say a theme would be religion and the use of women's bodies.
Non-consensual.
Non-consensual, and the emphasis and focus on breeding.
Yes. So much on breeding, and it doesn't matter if you're female or male in that case.
Yeah.
I would also say it's a twist on the fated mate trope.
Yeah. Fated sibling
reconnecting.
Yeah,
that's what I got.
It's giving Luke and Leia. Like,
it is giving Luke and Leia.
Yeah. Do they want to fuck? A little bit.
Are they
into
twins? Her.
Yep. It's I do appreciate the psych out third like love triangle.
Yeah.
Once they introduced him and they introduced the like his point of view, I was like, oh well, if this is like a love triangle situation, they're making us want to like him.
And he is likable.
Yeah.
Casimir.
Yeah.
He is likable. Sometimes I even felt like I liked him more than Maximilian, even though I still liked Maximilian. I think that I liked the characters more when the narrative was from the third person point of view.
Agreed. It was fascinating how much not just the characters, but the writing was more enjoyable in the third person.
I agree. Unfortunately, it was only the male characters whose points of view were written in the third person, and our sole female point of view was written in first person, which we have seen done in other books.
Yeah.
However, I really wanted to like Kitana. I liked the men more.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kitana. And we're referencing Goodreads reviews for this one. And I'll use some of my own thoughts. So I'll start with my thoughts. And it's something that I saw as like kind of a recurring theme in Goodreads. And maybe this is the difficulty when it comes to writing in third person. You have Kitana, who is this legendary warrior, right? She is feared. People know her name. I don't think we know her exact age, but she's not. Oh, no, we do, because we know her brothers.
Yep.
Wait.
74.
And then But and then she was captured for 50 years.
So she was 24 when she was captured and then in a coffin for 50 years.
It's hard when you have a legendary warrior who's 24 years old, who comes out with a mentality of a 24-year-old, but makes these very immature thought processes, decisions. And it's like kind of a struggle that I think not just you're looking up Goodreads. I can see you reading. Look at me. Look at the camera. Okay. It's something that not just like that Jasmine goes through, but I think any author that has a young character who's supposed to be like this badass and then has the mentality of a young character, it's really hard and frustrating to read.
So I will say, even though Kitana is quote unquote 74, she doesn't have 50 years of lived experience.
Yeah, so we're going with the idea she's the mentality of a 24-year-old.
Right. She has the mentality of a 24-year-old. And I'm going to argue her brain is not fully developed.
Yeah.
She's dwelt on revenge and it's festered for 50 years. I wasn't surprised with her immaturity and her stupid decisions.
No, I wasn't. I'm not surprised by it. I think it just is counterintuitive when it comes to when you have a quote unquote legendary warrior, which means that is someone who would have been forced to grow up quite young, who's been training, who is, skilled military, and yet they're going to make some really dumb choices.
I think there could have been more of this. There was one point where in the narrative, I think when Kitana is captured by the bartender and the other witch, and then Jinx comes and they're like, oh, this is the legendary panther that you used to ride on her back into battle. And she's like, no, Jinx would never let me do that. Like, that's not what happened.
It's a correction of what would have happened. Like, it's kind of like, oh, you guys have built me up in your head. This isn't real. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that was emblematic of the fact that legendary warrior is like too much hype for her.
That's fair.
But I don't think that was done enough. There was not enough discussion of what the legends were for Kitana to discount them.
Agreed. Everything about Kitana is stuff that I want to like. I do feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities to get into the psyche that is her. I mean, she was trapped in this coffin for 50 years. I know she wasn't awake the whole time. Like, she talks about being awake every once in a while, but put someone in a coffin for 30 minutes, they're going to lose their mind, And there's just there was like a lot of elements that I think that could have been explored. Like, I like this idea of this legendary warrior where it's like, oh, that wasn't real.
Yeah.
And then maybe someone who's like grappling with having been trapped for 50 years. Like, I feel like there wasn't any kind of like slight madness or slight, unhinged or, the everything is closing in around me. I think there was something early on that she felt a little suffocated, but that was very brief.
Yeah. So I think instead of being claustrophobic, she felt like the sky was too big, right? And she didn't want to go outside at the start of the book, but that was overcome pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think what I would have expected was every time she fell asleep for her to be back in their coffin.
Yeah.
And every time she woke up to think, wow, I must be dreaming.
Yeah.
Because I think 50 years of solitude like that, I would personally think I would struggle with the idea that I'm out.
Yeah, because waking up would be terrifying, because waking up is confirming you're still inside.
Exactly.
Sleep is the place where you get comfort because at least you're away from your reality.
Exactly.
So, but then that almost brings dread, because knowing that the next day she'd have to wake up and experience the terror of waking up all over again.
Yeah, exactly. And if she's like, now I love this idea. Now I'm recreating Kitana in my own brain. I would have loved for her to think the reality that she is now in is her dreaming, because then it would justify stupid decisions because it's not real in her mind.
Yeah.
Because it is a dream world. She can make stupid choices, or she can choose something she wouldn't normally choose that is rational.
Yeah. I mean, and we don't need that all the way until the, final chapters, but just in that first part, right? Just in that those initial days, have the recklessness, have the stupid choices mean something, because it's like, I mean, you could even lean into the fact of, I have been trapped and I am not going to be trapped anymore by intelligence or any other kind of smart choices. I'm going to be as reckless as possible. Like, there was a lot to that And again, this is what I mean by the right ingredients, right? You have this trauma, which is interesting. You have this character who is interesting. So then you have her waking up from this traumatic experience. Everything there has the ingredients of being interesting.
Exactly. The execution did not jive with my personal tastes.
Yeah.
But I'm only talking about part 1.
Agreed.
I really enjoyed part 2. Once I got to part 2, it was so easy to devour that part.
Yeah.
And that's why I started by saying part 1 didn't feel necessary.
Yeah, I enjoyed part 2 thoroughly, but I think at that point, part 1 had done me, like, had left an impression so much so that, like, it was not a too little too late. It was a relief. Like, I was reading it being like, oh, thank God. Okay, here we go. But it felt like starting a whole new book.
Yeah, it did.
And that was kind of mentally not exhausting, but hard to kind of wrap my head around, where all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm done. But now I'm starting over again. And I'm supposed to start this book, essentially start this book, but with the knowledge that I have. And the knowledge that I have doesn't quite connect with everything, especially since the buildup to the climax was the most anticlimactic. I mean, it was a great cliffhanger. Let me say this again. It was a great twist. It was a great cliffhanger.
That's not where I would have ended the book.
Not at all. Or if you're going to build it up so much more, like have them go into an epic battle, have them, have something built up so much more. But like, I was reading this and I kept seeing the percentage on my Kindle going down, and it's like 98% done, 99% done.
I know. I was like, my, because I'd switched from my Kindle to my phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, that percentage has to be wrong. I swear I was still at 86%.
Yeah. I mean, normally around like 80, you start to build up to like, okay, you can see where the climax is going. Even if, like, you and I have talked a lot about, like, books nowadays kind of like end on that big cliffhanger, not having that like 2-chapter resolution, which I personally like. This wasn't even that. Like, it just kind of was like a very disappointing, like a very small orgasm where you're like, yeah, you came, but did it count?
So let's talk about structure.
Yeah.
In terms of from like a
classical book structure.
Yeah, let's talk about the structure of this book, looking at what we expect from a traditional book structure and why it didn't work, because we're both kind of saying there wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It did feel like part 1 was just a really long prequel that I didn't feel was significant enough to justify how many chapters it had.
How many chapters and how many things that it's going to accomplish. I think what makes it hard is you have part 1, part 2. And that immediately kind of puts a, pun intended, stake into the like heart of the book, where it kind of like messes up the 3-act structure, which is very classical. I mean, you could even argue there's a lot of 4-act structures, and that you can kind of make do. But that's not what she's working with here. She's working with like a part 1 that is truly independent of the part 2.
Right. And in a lot of ways, even though I feel like part 1 was more than half the book, it was barely act 1.
Yeah.
It didn't even have enough to be act 1 in my brain. And what did we learn? We met characters that don't matter in part 2.
None at all.
Right. We learned things that, again, could have been learned in hindsight or throughout the political game.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed chapter 1.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 could have been the prologue. Then you jump into part 2. And then everything that happens in part 1 could have been learned in part 2. And I say that because I don't feel like there's a true climax in this book.
I agree. I love the idea of having chapter 1 be a prologue and then going straight into, because then I think that even leaves mystery for the reader of being like, oh, well, like, what happened? Like, you went from hating him. I mean, the difference is now you have to start the, connection with her and Maximilian, which I refuse to take this name seriously.
Maximilian. And it's never shortened to Max.
It's the least sexy name. Least sexy name. Max, you're already working with a non-sex. Sorry for all the people who have Max boyfriends or husbands, but like, Max is already not a bedtime screaming name.
Unless it's a woman.
Agreed. So Maximilian is already a frustrating name. However, which again, and then he calls her kitten.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see my face, guys. It's cringing. It's cringing so bad.
You know, even though it's so obviously a play on Kitana, it really took me a while to be like, oh, because when he first called her kitten, I was like, where did that come from?
Between kitten and Maximilian, it felt like almost like a really cheesy, tropey 70s, not 70s, but like just like this really old tropey thing of like, come here, kitten. Oh, Maximilian. Like it just was, I don't know. It was aggressive. Anyway, part 1, part 2. And we're trying to get them to bridge the connection. And I like the idea of jumping into that. I think what she was struggling with is that part 2, we have Kitana really struggling, or not struggling, but like they're just super horny for each other. They're not even struggling. That's the other thing. Their romantic relationship doesn't even have conflict. It's just, I am horny for you. And it went from, you're a vampire, I shouldn't be interested in you. And he's like, I have been researching you for 2 years and I am horny for you.
I have been imagining what it would feel like even when I didn't know what you looked like.
When you came out of that sarcophagus, all skin and bones, I was down in that heartbeat. But like, I think that was like, she went into like part 2, kind of them being immediately interested in each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were already interested in each other from the get-go. Like, Kitana had for like a heartbeat being like, should I not be interested in him because he's a vampire? And then kind of got over that pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
I mean, even at one point, Kitana says like, is it so bad that we want to be like, I want to be with you? And he says no. And I'm like, well, there goes that conflict and interest there.
Yeah, no conflict. Not at all.
No.
The only conflict is the assumption that Kitana and Casimir might be fated mates. And then you're wrong, which is fine. I enjoyed that twist.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I agree. There isn't enough conflict between Maximilian and Kitana.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this whole book has been about planning and preparing to kill the Emperor, and then we end before we even get to the point where is she too late to help Maximilian kill the Emperor? Is she gonna make it on time?
But also, I was thinking about that, and Maximilian has no part in killing the Emperor. It's her. So it's not like Maximilian is saying, hey, I'm going to give him this drug. And I need you to kill him. Otherwise, people are going to come and see and say, why did you give him this drug?
Right. Exactly.
We also haven't established why she has to be the one to kill him. Because now we just have this moment of when they revealed their big secret plan, I was immediately thinking like, what's the point? Unless Maximilian plans on absolutely setting her up and taking the fall, which would have been I was waiting for that to be the big plot twist at the end, because he has him in a room. He could kill the Emperor himself. What's the plan? Like, I don't know what his game plan is, where it's like, we're going to kill the Emperor and then we're going to leave the room. He doesn't need her for that.
I don't know if it has something to do with his magic, right? Because the Emperor's magic controls vampires, but obviously doesn't control Kitana.
Yeah.
So that I was going to say that was the only way I could rationalize it in my head.
Yes, I agree with that. I needed her to show a moment of how Maximilian is physically incapable, or tell us of a moment of he is physically incapable of hurting the Emperor. Because if there's a thing about the whole magic where it's like, okay, God, I'm happy you brought that up. We have in the beginning this like, only you, the witch, will not succumb to his magic and you can do, your killing thing. So then why is it when at the opening ceremony, essentially, and the Emperor like bangs his staff and Kitana was like, hey, he's kind of using some weird magic, and everyone was like, what are you talking about? You're so silly. And it's like, wait, wasn't that the point of like getting her was the fact that she can't be manipulated by his magic? So then why is she surprised that the magic is happening? Because she can't be manipulated. What?
Yeah, no, I understand. It is shocking to me that it was odd that it was a surprise, and maybe the surprise was just the physical manifestation of the magic and that she can see it and they can't. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't know how it's activated. Yeah, but then you would think that the people would listen to her and just be like, wow, this is good. She shouldn't be surprised. They shouldn't be surprised. They should be listening to her. This isn't part of doesn't make any sense. There were tension moments. There was no tension in this book. Yes.
And all of them fizzle out pretty quickly, right?
Mhm.
She wakes up. I can't trust them. Oh, I guess I can trust them. Okay, I found this rebel group of, people praying and I'm going to help them. Okay, they're immediately blown up, which is a tension moment. But now the bad guy is immediately taken. She gets kidnapped for less than 2 pages.
Yeah. And then she gets kidnapped again for a couple more pages. She gets kidnapped twice.
Wait, when is she kidnapped twice?
Once by the bartender and the witch.
Right.
And then as she's walking away, she gets kidnapped by the commandant.
And she makes a joke about it being and I thought that was a funny moment of like, hey, I've been like kidnapped twice in one night. What the fuck? But then but both moments are resolved so quickly and just like, well, that was a resolution that we're just not really going to have anything. It felt like there were these moments that Jasmine wanted to hit.
Yeah.
And the payoff and the work to get there didn't feel completely done. Like, it just didn't feel like it earned those moments.
Yes, I agree. I don't know that the moments were earned. It's if I'm going to compare it to a roller coaster, we were on like a little kid's roller coaster versus a full-fledged like Six Flags roller coaster. I was there for the thrills and I didn't get them, right? And I think because she put so much work into Act 1, that's probably why it's there. But because the payoff's not there, that's why I'm like, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
It didn't teach me anything I needed to know for part 2.
I feel like even this whole moment when Kitana at the very end of part 1 was like, I am going to help you bring down the Emperor. Even that kind of felt like it fell a little flat for me. It wasn't a source of this person is hurting so many humans. Now, that was the goal. Like, that's the thing.
Right.
It's like, it has the ingredients. She is somewhat thinking these things. She is somewhat saying these things, but she tells Maximilian, I'm not going to leave you hanging. That is not the same as I'm going to avenge every human that died.
Yep. I agree. And quite frankly, I never felt like her willingness or unwillingness to go was at stake. Even though she was like, no, I'm not going to help you. I always knew she was going to. I never doubted that we would get there. And I think for it to be earned, I needed to doubt. I needed to believe that she was not going to help them.
Yeah, I mean, that she wasn't going to help them, that, either she wasn't going to help him or that he had a reason to make her stay. Maximilian at this point is just a really great guy. And that's part of the reason where I was like, he's going to be evil and turn on her. But like, if he's going to just be a really great guy, then have, again, tension moments where the fact that like, maybe he's bribing her, maybe he's blackmailing her, maybe he's doing something to force her to help him. Yeah. And he's like, having to dip into being a bad guy and doesn't like it, but it's for the greater good. And she's being forced. And then, they start into part 2 immediately and she's kind of resenting him, but at the same time is kind of like, shit, I do need to kill the Emperor.
Yeah. And I can't help this attraction. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really, like you said, the ingredients are there. I really wanted to enjoy it. So I want to go back to this idea. There's no climax and no resolution. There's just a buildup that then is done. It's like getting interrupted in the middle of masturbation. Like
I mean, and I have notes on this and their scene of like shared masturbation. So I will keep going.
If I was Jasmine's editor or agent or publisher, I would have said, you need to get back to the Emperor. We need to know if they are successful killing him or not. And more than likely they're not going to be. And then you need to escape. Then end it. Yeah. Right? That they're on the run. That's enough of a cliffhanger to be a cliffhanger, right?
And if the answer is that they're not on the run, right? If the answer is that they're not on, like, that it didn't work, then have the answer be, we failed.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have to stay.
Right. She took too long. So now they have to go through with the descendancy. And she has to allow her full vampire to come up. I did like the fact that she was part vampire.
Yeah.
I liked that conflict.
Yeah.
Or that tension because she knows what she is and she's trying to avoid unleashing it. I wanted more.
Yeah. Part 2 with them discovering that they're siblings, that would have been a great ending to part 1.
Exactly. Yeah, part 2 should have just been part 1 of the book.
Yeah.
And then just continue the book.
Because even if you figure out this whole thing with the Emperor and you get to, like, you know, killing him and stuff, you still have the other ex-boyfriend thing to deal with, right? Like, there's still so much more to work through that you don't have to even necessarily, like, kill the Emperor. You can still, like, have it that they fail, but, like, you have this other villain that if you eliminate one right away, that's okay because you have more to come.
Right.
And I think she did do a good job of building the ex-boyfriend as, like, this external threat and knowing what's to come and knowing some of the threats that are coming, that's going towards her and everything. So I thought that was well done and well built. And I'm sure, hopefully, there's going to be a good payoff in future books. But that alone could have held this entire book.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you're like edging people with threats, right? Like, it's just kind of where you're, this is so many sex metaphors in this episode. Probably for the book that had the least amount of sex. And that's coming from the YA book too.
Yeah.
But, like, there is this concept of just, you could have this big bad, her ex-boyfriend, being this threat that we never once see in this entire book, which we, like, that's how it is now, but elevate that, make it more intense. And the way you make that more intense is that you have the immediate threat kind of taken care of, and that would be the Emperor.
I agree. And now, a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hi, I'm Cyndi Lauper. My scalp was covered with psoriasis, which could lead to psoriatic arthritis. But Cosentyx treats both.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis 300 milligram dose and adults with active psoriatic arthritis 150 milligram dose. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at Cosentyx.com or 1-844-COSENTYX.
Cosentyx works for me.
Ask your doctor about Cosentyx.
I have, like, 2 notes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. There was this, like, there's a lot of show not tell in this. And the show not tell was from her perspective, not from the third person perspective. And it really talks about, like, you know, lean into what you're good at as an author. But there was a moment where the creepy scientist guy comes up to her and he was like, "You look like you have interesting insides." And then her internal thought was, every warning bell went off in my head. No fucking shit. Hey, I would like to murder you. I had a sneaking suspicion he might want to kill me. Like, it was such a moment of, like, what, you know, don't tell me that it's a threat. Say that her spine stiffened. Tell her, say that she took a step back. Tell her that she wished that she could reach for her stakes. Like, that's such a, for whatever reason, when it came to the first person, she really felt like she needed to tell her experiences. Okay, you're reading through some Goodreads comments. Go ahead. You read, I'm going to take a sip.
Well, before you do that, so the show not tell is probably taking you out of your reading experience. There were other things that took me out of my reading experience where I would have to swap from my Kindle to the physical book to be like, am I just reading an arc that wasn't properly edited, or is this really in the book? And what it was is when, the best example I have, when Kitana and not Naira, I'm trying to think of the other woman's name.
Eliza or something like that.
Oh yeah, Eliza.
The human.
Yes. When Eliza takes Kitana out on the bike and they're going to the warehouse, factory, whatever, for the first time, she says, "Oh, that's where I bought my first bike. And it's this dilapidated building that is closed and no longer, you know, the shop is not shopping anymore. There's fines on the building, But you've talked about how all plant life is basically dead unless it's specially cared for because it's been dark for 50 years.
That's a good freaking point.
And I went from the Kindle to the physical book, and I'm like, yep, there are still vines there.
There's something happened between the book and the Kindle. You're like, did she solve this problem somewhere?
Yeah.
There were plenty of moments where and I'm happy you were able to have that exact example, but there were plenty of moments where I'd be like, wait, physically that doesn't make sense. Or like logistically, this, what happened here? Like that doesn't contend. Also, she called it like ether, right? Aether, like that's
Aether. Yeah.
Aether. Normally, aether's considered like magic, right? Like there's some kind of magic induced thing. We get that with the mechanical horse. That's kind of magic. Yeah. And we immediately get into the steampunk magic mixed with technology world for 3 chapters,
which I really liked the steampunk elements of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I needed more of that.
Like, where did they rode a mechanical horse and then we never get a mechanical horse again.
Yeah. Or mechanical anything else.
Yeah. And we get a hint of it when we get that, I think his name was Icarus, which was kind of like a cool name because he flew too close to the sun or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like we get him who's kind of like put together. And so we have this, but then it's like, what happened to everything else between that steampunk city and here? Yeah. And I also get annoyed because a lot of books, and I think one of your books had ether, right? That was like
Aether.
Yeah. It was dropped and not explored in the slightest. That kind of annoyed me out of defense of you, funny enough. Because you've done a lot of work to describe what it is. And I know like in magic systems, it's just kind of like it's almost like the Star Wars, it's the Force. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's what is it? The Startrons, whatever the...
It's not mitochondria, but it's like it's a play on mitochondria.
Yeah, it's like the thing that
midichlorians.
Midichlorians.
Midichlorians, I think.
But those are the things that like make up the magic, right? And normally that is aether, is the thing that makes the magic. It is the special sauce. And so when you mix the special sauce with technology, you immediately have this really cool world. And we never get the mention of aether ever again.
In part 2.
Yeah. I mean, like, even in part 1, you don't get, like, other than, like, that's the aether bike. And that's the aether horse.
Right. And those are the aether lights. And the cannons powered by an aether core. Yeah, I loved the idea that Jasmine put in front of us. And I understand maybe because this was trying to be romance forward, it didn't want to explain it a lot, but it wasn't romance forward enough to justify the lack of explaining the magic. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost like anything can be romance forward and you can still have a good world. And that's you can still explain the world and still be romance forward. And that's the other, I mean, and I see it like you're kind of giving her grace of being like, well, it's romance forward, so we don't need the world building. But I mean, literally, at one point you're just like, Jac, how far are you on the book? And I said, I'm too busy being mad at the introduction of the...
No, you said ask me at 11 o'clock.
Oh, that was a different day. I had started reading at that point. But remember, I was like...
Yeah, at the very start.
I was just reading the like appendix or, beforehand of like, here's the world and here's the system and here, or not even system, but like, here's the landscapes and who's the god and goddesses and the clans of everything. And you told me like to stop reading and just get straight into it. And it wasn't really needed.
It wasn't. And that's so let's talk about that as a writing device or as a tool that authors use. I think the reliance on a glossary at the start of a book to explain a world, I hate to say it, is lazy. Everything that was in that glossary I did not retain, but I learned it all through the course of the book because the course of the book does what it should do, which is help me understand the world. So to her credit, Jasmine was able to do it without the glossary. To her discredit, she included the glossary, which I didn't need, and I think makes the book too intimidating to start.
Yeah. I have faith in yourself as a writer that you'll accomplish it. And I know it probably comes from a space of like her being like, well, I hate reading books and then having to write it all down. And that's fair. Like, I get that of being like, wait, whose clan, which, what? But she started this book in a very smart way, where what's the best way for a fantasy book is you have main character exploring the world, and they learn, you learn. You see that time and time again. ACOTAR, Harry Potter. It's like, I mean, there's more I'm not going to get into, I can't think of, but like there's a lot of like, person discovers the world, and she had a really smart workaround to that of Kitana was in a coffin for 50 years. She wakes up, the world is not what it is anymore. And now she has to relearn, and it's like, wait, I thought this clan was in charge and now it's this clan. You know what I mean? So like you had a really good way of explaining the world in a way that makes sense as to, well, why is this, versus like people who are like, you live in this world, so why are you explaining this to me as if like you don't live here?
Exactly.
Either A, put it at the back of the book.
Exactly.
Or B, if you look at Onyx Storm, Rebecca, probably her editor, maybe Rebecca, they have all of the riders and dragons and their abilities listed next to each other.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've never seen it.
Yeah, did you never open it up?
No, I never opened it up.
Do you want to look at it? And it's like,
no,
but
not
it's
right
like
now.
very well. I'm like, oh, I actually appreciate this where it has everything listed. So either A, put it at the back of the book because it does wonders, because that's now the first thing I'm reading is this world that I am so bogged down by, and I can't get past this. I'm already tired. I don't really want to do this. I can't retain all this information.
Because you have no context.
Yeah, I have no context, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Frankly, like I don't care enough to learn about everything. Like you could have done if she really wanted to do a prequel, or not prequel, but like, a little thing in the beginning, show the map, tell me about the gods, have like a little like story of like the goddess was sad, lost her child, and blah, 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 and scene.
I completely agree. I think what was at the start of the book with all the different clans, where they are, where they're from, their abilities, etc., put it in the back of the book.
Yeah.
So that I can look it up if I want to, as I read or after I've finished reading. At the start of the book, I do think the gods are interesting.
Yeah.
Give me a song, like write out lyrics of a poem or a song about the gods.
Yeah. My favorite is like a little kid's, fairy tale jingle type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A nursery rhyme.
That's what it's called.
Because the gods are important. And I do, like, we all know Hecate.
Yeah.
From Greek mythology or Roman, whatever. But I would have liked that foundation going in.
Yes.
Because the relationship with the gods is so important.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been more grounding than telling me how many different tribes there are of all the different species or races and whatnot.
Yeah. I agree. I thoroughly agree. And again, this is an interesting world. She built a very intense world. And that's some of the good reads of the positives, right? People did list, hey, that they liked the world. The world building was very thought out. Someone said that they read exclusively romantasy and they hadn't experienced a book that had this level of detail when it came to world building. And to which I give Jasmine kudos for that. Like we got an idea. We have a magic system ish. I mean, like we understand kind of where it comes from. We understand who's like what God is giving them that power and everything. So like we have good, like that's a good job. So like have faith in yourself as a writer that you'll make that will come across that.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about religion?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love a book that screams religious trauma from the author.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing. Not only do we have religion as a theme, but Jasmine wanted us to see it twofold because we saw 2 religious services, both of which I skimmed through and ignored because if you can't have me pay attention in the real world, I am not going to pay attention in this fake world.
I was paying attention to the religious
the sermons. It's just the sermons I couldn't read through.
That's fair. The sermons are whatever.
Yeah. I paid attention to it. I just didn't like the sermon. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to a sermon.
I've done that enough in my life.
I really have. I was raised Catholic. I've done my time.
Yeah. Actually enjoyed so I really am focused on the basically midnight mass that they have at the summit with the vampires and how much it blasphemies maybe what we're familiar with from Catholicism and what mass looks like with that. It felt very dark and very, very almost satanic, I would say.
Yeah.
Which I both enjoyed and didn't enjoy because I'm supposed to believe that there are good vampires,
Mm-hmm.
but you're making the vampire race and their religion very evil in my mind, based on my understanding of what, it means to be satanic and how you practice. It makes the whole vampire race feel very irredeemable.
Yeah.
And if we're supposed to be able to believe in harmony and that maybe vampires are misunderstood, they've been led astray, like I can understand how maybe their religion is the thing that has led them astray.
Yeah.
But their fervor for it makes me believe they should all die. Right?
Yeah.
I'm on the side of the people that hunt the vampires and kill them.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it, but I had trouble with it.
Especially when you have it, like at the very beginning, you have the human religion, right? And we're seeing them worship the god of sun, of light, and everything. And then it's this really hopeful experience.
Yeah.
And then they're all slaughtered, and then you feel really bad for them. And then to have it in contrast to this religion, you are, like you being Jasmine, are setting me up to hate them, right? Because you showed me the opposite, which are persecuted individual humans who are struggling to worship in secret. And we've had that throughout history, right? We have plenty of times of, religious prosecution and people having to practice in secret. And if they find a community, having to be very, like, knowing that it runs a risk. So that's an interesting thing. Like, that's a very relatable, I mean, in this world of history, not like that I've gone through that. It's also very much something that, even though I don't experience, I can understand and have sympathy for, and to really want to delve into that. And then to contrast it with this evil religion is setting us up to be like, so we hate vampires then. Right.
They're exactly what we think of. They have no souls. They don't respect life. And it's this weird balance that I think I understand maybe the god Teneboros is pure evil, right?
Yeah.
And his religion is therefore pure evil. I didn't need everyone to love Midnight Mass then. Like, if they're supposed to be redeemable, I didn't need everyone to be into it. Does that make sense?
I agree. I completely agree. I can even have the religion is evil and we shouldn't be on board with it. Like, if you're trying to say religion is evil, because not only do you have it so that this religion is, sacrificing people and everyone is, excited about it, you also have this religion, or at least the emperor who's interpreting this religion as everyone must procreate. And talk about how many religions talk about, like, focus on procreation and saying, like, it is your duty to procreate. If you want to be a part of this, you must procreate. Amy's religious trauma's coming up here.
Yeah. I mean, my father and my brother still say our duty in life is to multiply and replenish the earth, which is what Mormons say. And it just,
there's too many people here. We have,
I want to stake my own heart right now. Like,
but like, when I saw that, I was like, that's a really interesting concept, right? Like,
absolutely.
Especially when you have religions that are, I know Mormons have like a special, relationship with that. Catholicism, you'll always kind of joke when you see, like, people who have a bunch of kids, like, it's not as aggressive as like, it's your duty to procreate. Catholics just like to fuck, I guess, and just like go about it raw. I don't know, but it's
well, they're not allowed to use birth control, like the strict Orthodox Catholic.
When I was younger and I would go to, like, I was like still doing the mass thing, I would set my time to take my birth control at the start of church. Like, it's 9 a.m. time to take my birth control. Like,
oh my gosh.
I'm not Catholic. I don't know if anyone can tell, but like, once I saw that, and I was like, oh, I see what you're doing here. That is a brilliant way of saying, like, vampires, it's your duty to procreate. It's your duty for, to continue this legacy. And
Yeah.
this is religion is going to like, you know, enhance that and, you know, is going to bless you for doing that. I was like, yes, this is so interesting. This is a very interesting thing. And if you want me to say that this religion is evil, like I can be on board with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm all on board with that. I'm all on board with this idea of people being brainwashed into it as well.
Yeah.
I
But
needed
explore
more.
it.
Right. I needed more than Max and Casimir to be like, meh, it's not my favorite.
Yeah. That's where it comes into part 2 should have been part 1. So then we could have gotten a couple of midnight masses, right? Like,
right.
You could have done a couple of those. You could have seen it. Like, what's one that that maybe Kitana could have seen? What if there was a prayer at the beginning of, you know, some kind of like dinner situation? What if the priest was more, whatever I don't know if I'm calling him priest because that's the only thing I know.
Yeah, I forgot what he's called. Father.
What if he's the one who is actually like, you know, mingling? What if like rather than having a moment with Icarus, she has a moment with the priest?
Yeah.
You know, like this could have been interesting moments of, hey, religion is a huge theme that we are working in tandem of, like, that's in the background and is playing a big part. And then maybe Maximilian to a certain extent has been slightly brainwashed too, in the sense of like, you know, like, well, you know, we should procreate more.
Yeah.
And you get to like deprogram that from him, because then that brings in extra tension point and conflict with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think if that was the route, I would have wanted the human religion to be as problematic.
Yeah.
But because the human religion was not problematic, it was purely based on hope and people like clinging to something, that gets them through every day, even if it's maybe not going to happen. That's just sad, right? Like, you want them to be able to worship in a way that brings them hope.
It would have been a good balance of saying that it's not condemning religion. If her goal was to say, hey, I'm not saying all religion is bad, there's some that could be good, then have it be a counterbalance. But what we had was the human religion was a plot point, not a theme.
Right.
We get introduced and they die immediately.
I know. It was martyrdom.
Yeah.
And that just makes all the vampire stuff even more evil.
The vampire stuff, even though I don't think she thoroughly explored the full extent of the vampire religion and what it could have been, we still saw some ramifications of it, in the sense that procreation is so important. And we saw that why the male vampires are more important, and why, you know, they are going to use human women, and why there's focus as to like, oh, Maximilian is bringing Kitana because that's his new replacement for his child that was gone. So like there was enough, as little as she explored it, there was still enough that it actually supported the plot, or like not just the plot, the plot, the themes and everything.
Yeah.
Versus this, the human religion was literally just like, we meet them, now they're sacrificed, and they're not a plot point. They don't develop anything beyond Kitana's anger and wanting to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, makes me sad.
Of how much opportunity this book had.
Yeah, it just really, really did. I mean, let's also talk about one of the other themes, which was the use of the female body.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
I really, really loved the dichotomy of female vampires can't procreate, therefore they're viewed as lesser, and you have this patriarchal society. I enjoyed that justification of the patriarchy. I mean, not that it's a good thing, but I liked that she explained why the patriarchy exists. Yeah. And the dichotomy that human women can bear vampires whether they want to or not, and if they are a morte, they die in childbirth.
Yeah. And then it becomes like, hey, and now you're extra. Now you're just like cattle.
Yeah.
Women can't win either way.
Yeah.
Again, that is a wonderful theme that could have been explored. Then where do thralls come into play? And which like she's, you know, food to be sucked upon, but there wasn't any kind of moment of seeing Kitana being viewed as lesser.
Right.
There wasn't well, you're just a woman.
Right.
Now, we did have you're a human and you're stupid for wandering alone, but there wasn't this level of you're a woman and you get to be used and manipulated. And even, what's her name? Was it Victoria? The
which
twin?
Vivian or Viviana?
Viviana, I think. When you have her, I want to see either extra compassion because she's a woman and she is lucky that she has this prophecy power because now she gets to be valued. And it's like, she has so much more sympathy because she's on the other side and at least she gets to be treated special. Or a heightened sense of self where she doesn't want to associate herself with any women because she doesn't want to be confused as not having
lesser than.
Yeah, or lesser than.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So like, where do we land there? Like even though we have the structure of like where women land and where women fall, we don't see that really.
Yeah. And I would have loved to see, like, I think there's so much potential with Viviana, if it's Viviana and not Vivian. She's like, well, why can't I be heir? Even if I can't procreate, I still have powers. I'm still strong.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I want to explore that. I want to know more about Vivian and her rebellious nature. And we just got a taste of it. Maybe it comes up in future books.
Yeah. Also, like, she's 200 or something like that. Like, they're older. So, like, what happened in these 200 years? Has she given up hope? Is she getting more and more riled up as we go? 200 years to just start be asking these questions doesn't really make sense. So where do we land here in the development of her? And I think sometimes books, when you have these older characters and you have these like age gaps and everything, you just forget where their mentality should be. After 200 years, she would have been, what does it look like when you've been thinking about something for 200 years? That's what I want to see. I have another note. Okay, so I want to bring in a stupid point, and I probably should have brought it up when we were talking about logistics, right? Sometimes physical logistics doesn't make sense for me. Of like, okay, we're standing here, and now we're over here. Now, this is a different physical logistic, and I will not fault.
Is this during the sex scene?
Yes.
Okay, I think I already know what it is, but please continue.
Okay, this isn't just Jasmine. I've seen this with other people, but can we stop having sex scenes when you're standing? Right. And woman is supposed to be fingering herself. I can't do that. I would have to hunch over.
You have to hunch over. You can't do that. Just standing
it doesn't just go. I mean, I know my torso is particularly long. So like my arms don't help. Like they're not in like proportion to my torso. So like
you would have to have monkey arms to be standing up straight.
To be standing up straight and not to be, and I like the idea of like, you know, mutual masturbation or him assisting her with masturbation and then them watching it. I was into it, but I just kept being like, so is she like hunched over like a little grandma and going, nee?
Well, yeah. And then he's standing behind her. They're both watching, but then at some point she pushes her hips forward.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. For that one, she pushes her hips forward, maybe to get more of an angle so that, because then you're grinding. Here's the other thing. If your hands are down there and there's no simulation for your clit, your wrist is kind of in the way. So you would be getting some stimulation there.
It depends. I don't know. I've never tried to masturbate standing up. I might have to go practice now.
I just like, I did stand up and just put my hand, I didn't like go reaching, but I did like stand up and I was like, this ain't reaching shit. I can't do that. I'm already like, when people are like, when women are described as like laying down and they're able to insert all these fingers inside, I'm like, my torso is so long, I don't reach, and I have very short hands. That's the other thing. My hands are
tiny
like
fingers.
I have very tiny fingers and like a long torso. Nothing's happening. Like I'm working with nothing here. So it always like blows my mind where I'm like, this isn't just Jasmine. There's other times like, you know, if a man's like fingering her from behind, he has to really, I mean, especially if they're taller, the guy has to like, I mean, even if they're front to front, a guy has to like kind of like angle themselves down to get up in there. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it just makes me always think of like in the artwork, they're always like bent over. They're at a 90-degree angle for a reason. They've got their arms propped on a desk or something for a reason.
Yes. It just was, and again, it's a moment that kind of took me out of it. And you know, women listeners, I encourage you, go stand up and attempt to
tell us if your arms and fingers are long
enough. If you can you please send us a message? I would love to know more about the length of your arms.
Emma does have very long arms compared to the rest of her body. When we hold hands, I'm always like this.
She's so much shorter than you too.
She's only like 2 inches shorter than me.
She's so much shorter than me.
But like
2 inches shorter, it does not mean like she should be that much lower.
No, I know. She has to. I have to wear flat shoes. She has to wear platform shoes for me to not like twist my back.
I still don't think that she could go.
I don't think so either.
Emma, get her in here.
I'm not.
Get in here. Just like, you don't have to do anything. Just like, tell us if you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really, everyone go take a moment for yourself. Just see if you could. You don't have to finish. Just see if you could. You don't even have to start.
Know. I'm gonna go stand in the front of the mirror after this and just take a picture and just be like, let's just look at the length of my arm compared to the rest of my body.
I stood, hold on, stand up. Off camera. No, right now. I ain't reaching shit.
I can't insert anything.
I'm not I am I'll have to show you how low
your torso is longer than mine. I could stimulate externally. I could
start to maybe stimulate externally.
Oh,
but
my torso is 2 inches shorter than yours. We have measured, folks.
We have measured our torso.
Our legs are the same length. Our arms are the same length.
Yeah.
Her torso is 2 inches longer than mine.
I got a long torso. It is fun, but I'm barely reaching that. That's why in high school when we used to have the rules of your skirt had to go to the length of your arms, I got away with really short skirts.
Yeah.
They're like, you're short, your skirt's too short. And I'm like, take that, bitch.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it,
you should have been more accurate in your description.
Hold on. If you think about it, my arms
barely cover your butt. Not even.
Yeah. They're hip. They go up to here. I'm not wearing pants. I have boy short underwear. You guys can't see if I lift my ass to the camera to show Amy.
If you had told me you were only wearing underwear and no other bottoms, I would have believed you.
I mean, no, these are underwear, but they're they're my sleep underwear, so they go up really high.
Yeah.
Okay, so that part needs to be blocked out if we upload it to YouTube. Thank you.
Understood.
Just focus on your face.
Okay.
Yeah, so surprisingly longer episode. It does bum me out because it does feel like we were harping on it the whole time. I feel like this season you and I did make an effort to truly find prose and themes and what authors were intending.
Also, to be honest, right? I feel like we're not saying it's a terrible book. We're saying I had a hard time getting into it for these reasons. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed this part for these reasons, but it didn't feel like a full book. And this is how I would have changed it as an author.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think she had the parts where Jasmine has strengths, they're strong.
Yeah.
The parts where she is struggling, or the parts that maybe not struggling, maybe the parts that we feel personally isn't fully developed or to her best abilities, tends to take up the majority of the book.
Yeah. At least in this book.
Yeah.
She has another series. Maybe that series is different. I did see a Goodreads review that said, I really loved her other series. I couldn't get into this book.
Yeah.
So maybe she's done it successfully in other books. Maybe the sequel to this will be stronger because we start off, hopefully, with multiple points of view. I'm not saying I would never read a book by her again.
Agreed.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm willing to read the next book of this because I do want to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I just didn't love part 1.
I didn't love part 1. And maybe this is a book that I would only listen to audio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's something that maybe if that's one thing that as I was reading this, I'm like, I think this might be easier if this was an Audible book.
Makes sense. That was not an option.
No, it wasn't. And may that never happen to us again. I will exclusively only be looking for Audible.
Yep. Agreed.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Stay tuned for a special episode this Thursday.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you would like to submit your take on any of the books we've discussed this spring, Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnight, or any other books we've discussed in past seasons, check out our form on booktalkforbooktalk.com, where you can submit your take for us to include in a future mini episode or a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk.
Bye.